I'm not saying that it couldn't have been said differently. I think sometimes we listen for what we want to hear. And even when someone misspeaks, we automatically assume, well, they could have just, we don't assume they could have misspoken. In our final topic, this episode.
Oh dear.
Just get ready. We're stepping into it here. I actually enjoy these topics because I like tackling, I want to call them difficult conversations, but just where there's a lot of discussion points, and it should be discussion, never let me one up you and this type of stuff. But we're going to tackle today something that transpired on social media, just across the internet, and in, I'm sure, forums and stuff about that. And it's around comments that were made about the football team, expectations. And then at the end, we'll probably give out where we feel like we would recommend you as Auburn football fans think about the expectations. For context, we're sitting here in May of 2025 before the 2025 season is even beginning to be a thing. So long to go, folks. Settle down in your true season predictions. By the way, some of y'all are way too obsessed about that. I have to hear it every day. But what we're going to do actually is talk about some comments that were made by Coach Hugh Freeze when he visited with the Next Round Live. I believe it was at the charity golf event, the Regions Classic this week. So
Regions Tradition, yeah.
Regions Tradition. Thank you very much for charity. Always glad that our Auburn coaches go and support that, and the other regional coaches as well, even the Alabama coach. But there were comments that were made by him that fans, media certainly had discussions about. And well, maybe let me not lead anywhere. This comes courtesy of the Next Round Live. We're going to go and play it for you guys. And we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards. If I can get it, there we go.
Going into this season, does it feel a little bit different? Do you feel like, hey, I've got to win X amount of games?
I'm not a fool. I think we've got to go to a bowl game, and I think our administration understands. Look, I inherited a program that didn't have a top 25 recruiting class for 4 years. You're not going to win in this league. We've had now 2 full recruiting classes, both top 10. I think one more than your roster looks complete, but I'm still not naive. And we should have won some games last year that we could have won some games. I shouldn't say we should. We could have won some games last year. And we've got to find a way to make sure we're excellent in those areas that cost us those, that put us in a position to be at least bowl eligible, if not more. And I see no reason why we shouldn't do that. And I think that's an expectation that our people should expect. And I don't sit around feeling like that puts a lot of pressure on me. Look, I'm blessed. And I'm blessed to be at one of the greatest universities, to live in one of the greatest towns, to work for some of the greatest people. And our administration's awesome. My family, I have all 3 daughters there and grandkids. So, whatever the outcome of all of that is, that will be okay. Obviously, I'm a competitor, and I want to deliver to the Auburn people, and it's time for us to start doing that.
All right. Again, thank you to the Next Round Live for that clip. Lot was said after that clip. I'm going to be honest with you. Austin and I have talked about it a little bit, so we kind of know where each other stands on this. I think you're probably in a group of, this is most things. There's 2 sides, and then there's a neutral point in this. I definitely find myself on one side of the discussion point after watching this and seeing the commentary about it. I think Austin, after talking to him, is more neutral, but maybe sees some points of the other side of this. Just to be frank with you guys, a lot of people took issue with what Hugh Freeze said at this charity event. And I don't know if it was clear, but the context of that was they were asking basically, what do you feel the pressure essentially for your job this year, and based off of win totals and things like that. If I said anything untrue yet, Austin, about setting this up and our discussion about it?
No, I mean, I think that especially after this has come out and blown up. So even though it's a minute 20 or something like that, there's still a lot of people who haven't even watched that whole thing. Right. They're just seeing a printed out sentence or 2 sentences from the beginning of that clip, which is important, but also not context. There's also a clip thanks to the Next Round Live for doing those interviews. There's also an even longer clip of their entire conversation with him. And even that minute 20 got cut off at the very end. So, as we talk about a lot with press conferences and whatnot, context is key. But no, nothing you said has been inaccurate.
So I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people took issue with this, and my first reaction was, "What's the big deal?" I know the second I just said that, half of you hate me, half of you hate this show now. Probably going to stop listening. If that's your perspective and you can't handle the difference of opinion, I'll probably not say too much more after that. Look, we're here about talking about things. We don't have to be on the same side. Austin and I tend to be on the same side of most of these things. I think this is probably one of those few times where you and I might actually kind of shift a little bit away from each other. Not necessarily too much, but just you're more in the center on this one. I'll be honest with you. Some of y'all need to get some perspective on things and some context and some reality about your overreactions to things that are said but also aren't said as well. I can expound on it more, but I don't want to make this all about me, because I obviously, is the manager of this, get to put my perspective out there more than anybody else's. So let me give the floor to Austin, and you talk about whatever you want. Again, this is all about, we're keeping things in perspective, respect to the Next Round Live, to Coach Hugh Freeze, to those who had commentary on it in the media as well. This is no shots at anybody. This is just being real about this. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it when it came out, and I think my first initial reaction was more of like, I don't know if I would have said that if I being Coach Freeze. Not so much of like, I can't believe he said that, or this is unbelievable, but just like I in my day job, I'm a communications person. I'm very, I'm attuned to the PR side of things, and how things come across, the appearance of things. And so for me, it was more that angle at first. I thought that is not the best way I would have answered that question. Now, sure. Look, and like you said, this is weird. I respect the Next Round guys a lot. They are from my home area. I grew up listening to a lot of them for a long time. The question was laid out there for something like this. Do you feel the expectation to win X amount of games? Coach Freeze has been doing public interviews for a lot longer than I have. He's done many, many, many more than I have. Right. He is certainly more of an expert on it than that. I think that his answer could have been a little bit better to avoid some of this reaction while still getting his point across. I think him saying we should get to a bowl game is layered a couple times. I think he's looking immediately after the fact of saying, hey, I just didn't get to a bowl game just now. So that's step one for us. But at the same time, I think it shows, or it gives off a certain level of that's where he feels the bar is at. And I'm not saying that's accurate. I'm just saying that's kind of the reaction that comes from that when you hear that, especially if you don't watch the entire clip. But I think that there's truth on both sides. I think he'd be the first person to tell you, and he does in that clip, that both wins have to come. There are wins that could have / should have been won last year. And there are certainly wins that are to come or need to come in the immediate future for his job, but also for that's the trajectory that we love to talk about on the show, that where Auburn football is at is recruiting's piled up. He talked about that, and I've seen people get upset about that factually or correct or statistically, that what he said is not accurate, that he did not inherit 4 straight 25 seasons. However, most, if not all of those top 25 classes that he did not mention transferred out before he got here. And many of those impact players are no longer, he did not inherit. Now, I get, if we're going letter of the law, that is not, what he said is not accurate, but the premise behind it, I think, is what he meant. And so for me, it's more of, I think he knows wins have to come. If it were me, I would not have put a specific number. I think that there's a way to say, our people expect wins. I expect wins, and we haven't gotten it done. And we expect to be much better than we were last year and the year before. I think that in this day and age, and especially us coming off of a coach in Gus Malzahn that got a lot of slack for coach speak and a lot of what's my word here? A lot of
sorry, Mr. PR. I don't know.
Yeah, took a lot of hate for not being very transparent. Sure. And I think it's very flip side with Coach Freeze is he is very transparent, which is very good in a lot of ways. I think that it might have led to some of this reaction here of him just kind of speaking in his mind. But there's a way to kind of balance that. And I think it could have been leveraged better here. Now, I want to reiterate what I've already said. That I think Coach Freeze understands more than anybody that wins need to come. And I don't think his goal for the 2025 season is to get to a bowl game. I don't believe it in the least bit. I think he has far higher aspirations. The talent he's brought in has far higher aspirations. And we'll talk about where we feel like expectations should be here in a second. But that's kind of my general consensus on it. I see both sides. I see the outrage at what was verbally said. But I also see that there's probably a meaning behind what he said that wasn't correctly articulated as well. And so like Kyle mentioned, I'm somewhere down the middle on it.
And I'm glad that you actually got to be the one to spend most of the time talking about this aspect, because I think you have a great perspective where you come from on it, given your day job, and can argue both sides of this equation. So I'm not saying that it couldn't have been said differently. I'm not saying that clearly, factually, based off that top 25 comment, there was something not right there.
Sure.
I think sometimes we listen for what we want to hear. And even when someone misspeaks, we automatically assume, well, they could have we don't assume they could have misspoken. And they were trying to make a point, and they technically said something factually incorrect, but that's not what they meant. And if you look at someone's full body of work, which we stress that y'all do, that's why we stress watching press conferences, so you can get to know the coach, get to know the way they speak, get to know what their points they're trying to make. This is not out of line with what he's been saying the entire time. He's been asking, he's been telling for year 3 and 4 is where he wants to be able to begin to be measured by. And frankly, that is very reasonable. I had no issues with what was said. I'm frankly shocked by some people that did. And that's fine, because that's their opinion. They're allowed to have it. They're allowed to express it how they would. I could give some pointers about how I think you could have handled it differently. But I think it's just one of those things, folks. We're sitting in the off season. People are ready to talk about some things. I know, even though people give me flack for being tired of talking about season predictions this early, you also are tired of talking about that. Well, if we're overreacting about this was nowhere near needing to be overreacted. This was a simple comment that was easy to take out of context. The dude knows he needs to win. We all know he needs to win. Nobody knows that better than Coach Freeze, his staff, and his players, and they're going to do their best to do that. So if you're already looking to be on the negativity bandwagon, be my guest. It's a crazy way to live. Have fun with that. But I would be someone here that gives people the benefit of the doubt and my full support until they prove otherwise. And that's where I kind of stand on it right now.